What the heck is going on with Boeing? Well, Boeing has been spinning out of control recently, and their recent decline started back in October of 2018.
Well, we begin with breaking news. The search for wreckage is underway after a passenger jet with 189 people on board crashed. It had just taken off from the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. Lion Air says it lost contact with flight JT610 a few minutes after its departure at about 6:20 a.m. local time.
And then just a few months later, it happened again in Ethiopia.
U.S. aviation investigators and a technical team from Boeing are headed to Ethiopia tonight. That's where a new 737 MAX 8 jetliner crashed today, minutes after taking off from Addis Ababa. 8 Americans are among the 157 people killed.
The plane that kept crashing was their new Boeing 737 MAX. And apparently the reason why it was crashing is because the new plane acted a little bit different than the old model, so they had to add a little bit of software in to make it act the same so the pilots didn't need more training. This software relied on a single sensor that had no redundancy, so if it failed, that meant that the plane would basically just fall out of the sky. For a little while, it seemed like they were going to get their issues sorted out, but more recently, Boeing's quality problems have been becoming more and more frequent, and people are just expecting another one of these things to fall out of the sky at any moment. Word around the internet is that the reason why they're going down is because Dave Calhoun is their new CEO that they brought on in 2020, and he's been cutting the cost as much as he can. 3 years ago, in February of 2021, an engine caught on fire over Colorado. But that's okay, these things happen sometimes, right? But now it's really ramping up because 11 days ago, a tire just fell off of a United Airlines flight taken off from San Francisco. And of course this was a Boeing plane, but maybe this was just a United Airlines situation because they do the maintenance.
We have breaking news. A United Airlines plane just made an emergency landing at LAX after losing a wheel shortly after taking off from San Francisco International Airport. The Boeing 777 aircraft was departing for Osaka at 11:30 this morning when the wheel fell off.
But then the very next day, on March 8th, a United Boeing 737 MAX suffered a gear collapse after landing in Houston, Texas. Then just a couple days later, on March 12th, a United Airlines flight from Sydney to San Francisco was forced to turn back because it was leaking hydraulic fluid.
More trouble in the sky for United Airlines. Another flight was forced to make an emergency landing at the Sydney airport on Monday after experiencing a hydraulic issue. The San Francisco-bound flight carrying nearly 200 passengers and crew members was only 2 hours into its journey when the pilots rerouted the Boeing 777 aircraft. Over the past week, 6 United flights have faced problems that forced planes to make emergency landings or return to the city they left from.
And she just said that was a 777 and not a 737, so it's not just one line of their planes that's having issues. And then just a couple of days later, on March 15th, they continued to have issues with a plane landing in Oregon with a missing panel.
United Airlines flight that landed safely in Medford earlier today was discovered to be missing a panel underneath the plane. It is the latest in a string of recent safety issues for both United and Boeing. The airport's director says pilots were performing a routine post-flight inspection on the Boeing 737-800 when they discovered that missing panel. She says no issues were reported during the flight from San Francisco. The airport says the tower paused all flights to make sure the runway was clear. They didn't find any debris.
So they didn't even know this panel was missing, and they don't even know when it fell off. They were just walking under the plane doing an inspection, and they realized the part of the plane was just missing. But it's not just problems on the ground. In the air, there's also problems with the plane dropping suddenly out of the sky and throwing people into the ceiling, smashing their heads against the panels in the ceiling and breaking them.
New details on that in-flight plunge on a Boeing 787 that injured about 50 people. Boeing is telling airlines to check a specific switch in the cockpit as the NTSB now joins the investigation.
It was insane. I thought I was dreaming.
It was the moment that terrified passengers this week. Video shared online capturing the sudden dive of a LATAM Airlines 787 Dreamliner.
We are now safe now. We are now safe now.
So whenever they turn the fasten your seatbelt lights off, you better keep them on because at any point the plane just might drop out of the sky. And even if they do recover, you're still going to be injured because you're going to get thrown into the ceiling. And of course, we all remember a few months ago whenever a door just was blown right off of one of the planes.
One here to live now from Fox. We want to continue on with our coverage here of the latest NTSB report. And it's a big one, saying bolts that help secure a panel to the frame of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 were missing before the panel blew off the Alaska Airlines plane last month, according to accident investigators.
Apparently, they just forgot to bolt the door back on whenever they did a little bit of maintenance. So who knows how many other panels on how many other planes are just not even screwed in at all. It's definitely not that one plane. Here's another plane that's missing some screws.
Welcome back. This had to be scary considering this person was on this plane. A Virgin Atlantic flight bound for New York City's JFK airport canceled after a passenger noticed missing bolts on the plane's wing.
So they were going to take off and fly the plane, and apparently they already did one of those inspections where they found that missing panel on the other plane, and they thought that it was all good since there was several screws just missing on the wing, and a passenger had to point it out for them to cancel the flight, or else maybe the wing would have just fell right off. But this comes as no surprise to any of the employees that actually work on building or maintaining these airplanes. Here's a former Boeing employee saying he's not even surprised that that door blew off of that plane.
I want to bring in Ed Pearson, a Boeing whistleblower, former Boeing employee who is the executive director for the Foundation for Aviation Safety. Ed, you testified against Boeing at the hearings for the MAX after they were grounded following 2 crashes in 2019. I'm curious, when you saw the video of this plane flying with a big gaping hole in the side, what was your reaction?
Well, thanks, Phil, for having me on here. Actually, I'd like to say that this was no surprise, unfortunately. I know it's stunning for passengers, but for those of us who have been monitoring what's been going on for a while with the MAX, it really wasn't a surprise, sadly. As we've discussed in the past, the company has struggled mightily with manufacturing, and we've had over 20 production quality defects. It's hard to keep up with all of them. They keep getting reported, and you guys have done reporting on this. So, this is unfortunately has been consistent. We've also had requests for engineering exemptions, after, 2 fatal crashes and 346 people died and a criminal investigation, everything else. The company is still requesting engineering exemptions for flight safety related systems. So this is very concerning. Besides the production quality defects, there was, quality control inspections that were removed. And we're talking thousands of quality control inspections removed on individual airplanes. And this, not just the 737 MAX, but other airplanes, the 777, the 67, and 87. And, it's our understanding that the FAA was unaware of these quality control inspections that have been in place for many, many years. And it wasn't until a couple whistleblowers reported internally, and this is recent, that these quality control inspections were removed. The union has been fighting back to reinstate these inspections, and they've reinstated many of them, but not all of them. And so there's planes that have left these factories with, in some cases, thousands of inspections. I'm talking individual airplanes now that have left the factory without.
This same guy actually walked off of a flight after he realized that it was a 737 MAX 9 plane, and he was a manager for Boeing, so if he's gonna walk off of the plane, then maybe I should too.
While the world was in shock seeing the door of an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX blow out mid-flight earlier this year, an ex-Boeing senior manager had already determined beforehand that he would never step foot on the family of aircraft again. With a keen sense of the issues surrounding the aircraft type, Ed Pearson said that he walked off an Alaska flight in 2023 after discovering it was operated by a 737 MAX 9.
And he's not the only whistleblower that's a former employee of Boeing. He better be careful, though, because one of them just ended up dead.
I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way.
First tonight, our investigative reporter Ann Emerson has new information in the death of Boeing whistleblower John Barnett. A close family friend of Barnett says he predicted he might wind up dead, that a story could surface that he killed himself. But he told her, don't believe it.
If Boeing's willing to sacrifice the lives of hundreds of people at a time that fit on each one of their planes, then of course they're going to be willing to sacrifice the life of a whistleblower to send a message to other whistleblowers like that other guy, especially whenever this kind of stuff is cutting into their profits. That guy ended up being found from a supposed self-inflicted gunshot wound just one day before he was supposed to testify in front of a judge about Boeing. About a month ago, he did an interview on TMZ talking about Boeing's issues. Let's see what he had to say.
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are stored properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane, as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787, because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process.
And it's not just the quality managers that won't fly on the planes. Here's what the engineers had to say that are actually building them.
Are assembling the company's flagship product, the 787 Dreamliner. But this footage reveals some have little faith in the plane they build.
Did you fly on one? No. You won't fly on one. Did you fly on one of these planes?
No, not really. Of 15 workers asked randomly, 10 said they would not fly on the Dreamliner.
I wouldn't fly on one of these planes because I see the quality going down around here.
An employee captured the footage after contacting Al Jazeera to tell us he had serious concerns about what he was seeing. At his request, we changed his voice.
With all the problems reported on the 787, there's 90% that's getting swept away, hushed up. It's an iceberg.
In another meeting, the source told us workers are often underskilled, uncaring, and in some cases on drugs.
I've seen a lot of things that should not go on at an airplane plant. People talking about doing drugs, looking for drugs.
It's all coke and painkillers. You can get weed here. It's really good weed here. They don't drug test nobody.
I know they don't.
And there's people who go out there and lunch and go smoke one up.
Do they?
Hell yeah.
If you just search for Boeing on X, then you can see that it's pretty much just turned into a meme. And at this point, if you're riding on Boeing, then maybe just like that engineer, you might have a death wish too. This isn't just a recent issue necessarily either, because back in 2011, this happened.
The last thing you want to see when you are in a plane at 36,000 feet, the sky through the roof of the plane. A hole ripped open mid-flight in the roof of a Southwest Airlines plane.
It's not just passenger planes either. There's also cargo planes flying right above your head that could fall out of the sky, or who knows, maybe they're missing a panel that's going to drop some boxes out and it's going to fall on your house.
A Boeing 747 cargo jet with one engine on fire just after takeoff from Miami International Airport. You can see the flames here shooting from the engine. The pilot then declaring a mayday, requesting clearance to land right away. Once on the ground, a hole was found right above that engine.
Other Boeing employees have also even mocked the FAA, and apparently they said in a comment that this plane, the 737 MAX, is designed by clowns who are in turn supervised by monkeys. So if it's a bunch of clowns and monkeys making these planes, then I don't know if I want to fly on them. Reasonably, there are hundreds of thousands of flights that are flying over our heads every single day, and if these are the only problems, then maybe it's safer than it seems. But it seems to me that the people that are actually building these things would know what they're talking about, and if quality has been slipping, then maybe that's something to consider the next time you go looking for a plane ticket. The last thing you want to see out your window when you're leaving on vacation is this.
It was a terrifying few moments caught on video at altitude.
And ladies and gentlemen, we realized something happened outside.
Imagine if you were one of the passengers that couldn't see out the window and that pilot came on and said, "I realize that there's something going on outside." I don't know what would be scarier, that or just looking right out the window and seeing one of the jets on fire, especially if you're over some water and headed to an island or something. But you guys let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Is Boeing still safe to fly on, or are you going to be looking to see on your next ticket if it's a Boeing or maybe that you could transfer to an Airbus? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. But most importantly, don't forget to have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.